everyone, I'm Cerice Berndsen from Equestrian Power.
And I'm Catherine Respess from Equestrian Power, and we are joined today by Nicole Watts from Equizen Performance Equine Therapy from here in Tryon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to do a little interview and get to know Nicole a little bit better.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so let's jump into it. Tell us how you got into horses.
Well, that's a fun story. So the day that I was born, my grandfather walked into the hospital with a life-sized stuffed pony tucked under his arm. And I was literally hooked on horses from the day I was born.
Oh my god.
That is a proper grandfather.
Yes, he was the best grandfather. He was a horse lover as well. So he got me signed up for riding lessons at age 5, and he also bought me my first horse when I turned 12.
That's amazing.
Very cool. Oh, okay. So what kind of riding did you do?
I started out riding Western as a child. I did barrel racing and I did youth rodeos. And when I was about 8, I discovered jumping. And I got hooked on that. I rode jumpers. We moved to Florida. I grew up near Chicago and then we moved to Florida. And I rode jumpers on the A circuit in Wellington.
Awesome.
And when I got to my early 20s, I realized that I didn't bounce as well as I used to. And that's when I started riding dressage. And so I've ridden dressage ever since then.
Okay. All right. So what about your career with horses? How did you get into that?
That's a great story as well. So when I graduated from high school and started college, I got a 2-year associate degree as a veterinary technician.
Wow.
And I worked for 12 years doing that. I worked in both small animal and equine practice. And ever since I was a child, I would get bronchitis every winter. I would get very sick in the winters when the air would turn cold and dry. And each year of my life, the bronchitis got worse and worse and worse. And so about 11 years ago, I had such a horrible case of bronchitis that I was in bed for 12 days straight.
Oh, wow. That's awful.
Yes, I wasn't able to work. I wasn't able to ride my horses. I was very sick. And so I went to the doctor, as you do, and they gave me a round of antibiotics like they always did, but it wasn't helping. And so I went back a few days later. They gave me another round of a stronger antibiotic and an inhaler. And I went back a few days later and they gave me a stronger antibiotic, an inhaler, steroids, and they just kept giving me more and more and more medication, and I was not getting any better, and I was getting terribly frustrated with it. So at that point, I decided to seek some alternative therapies for myself, for my own health. And I started acupuncture. I had already been getting chiropractic for quite some time after a bad fall from a horse, but I started getting acupuncture. I started using herbal remedies, changed my diet, changed my own health routine, and I am thrilled to say that in 11 years, I have not had bronchitis a single time in my life.
Amazing.
So it was a huge life-changing thing for me. And already working in the animal care field, I thought to myself, if this worked so well for me, this has got to work on animals. So I went back to school, completed another 2-year certification, which was basically the equivalent of an associate's degree, and got certified to do acupressure and massage on animals. About 90% of the animals I work on are horses, but I also work on a handful of dogs and cats too.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
Wow, what a well-rounded background you have.
Yes.
I mean, you've probably seen it all as a vet tech.
I really have, and my experience as a vet tech has helped me tremendously with the work that I do now because, for instance, if an owner calls me and says, oh, my horse is recovering from an injury, my horse just had surgery, this is what the vet did, or my horse has Cushing's disease, it's taking Pergolide. I'm familiar with all the veterinary processes, and then I can come in with my work, and having that knowledge can complement what the vets are already doing.
I can see how that would be. You would be a really great asset to any horse's team because of that background.
Thank you.
Really
Yes.
cool. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. So when somebody contacts you, what is your process? Walk us through that with them.
That's a great question. So when I first arrive to see the horse, I usually discuss what's going on with the owner. And it can be anything from the horses having stiffness or soreness in a certain area, or the horse is recovering from an injury or an illness. So I get as much history as possible, and then I begin my work. And every one of my sessions includes acupressure, which is the same as acupuncture but without the needles, and then a full body massage as well.
Wow, that sounds really relaxing and
I know.
pleasant.
Yes.
I kind of want one now.
Yes, most of the horses absolutely love it. It's very rare that I have, a horse that is not agreeable to the whole process, and some of them even fall asleep during their sessions.
That's got to be satisfying.
It really is.
So when working with horses, and I'm sure you see horses from all breeds, all disciplines, do you notice any specific patterns that keep popping up from horse to horse and client to client?
I do, and as far as patterns, there are certain, I guess what I would call discipline-specific things. So for instance, a dressage horse is going to carry themselves differently than, say, a barrel racing horse.
Sure.
Or, a typical quarter horse, the way that they're built is going to carry themselves differently than, say, a German warm blood. So in the discipline of dressage, for example, because I'm a dressage rider, our main goal is to have the horse carry more weight on the hindquarters. So I often see more soreness or more tightness or more problems in the hindquarters from bearing an increased amount of weight. If a horse is, say, learning a new movement such as a lengthening or an extension, I often see soreness in the backside of the shoulder and the tricep area because it is now being stretched more than it used to be. I also notice patterns as far as weather is concerned. Changes in weather and environment affect horses much more than people think they do. And even though we have mild winters here in the South, the weather can change very rapidly. It's very common for it to go from 70 one day to 30 the next day. And those changes affect horses greatly. That's when my phone starts ringing off the hook, is when we have, we go from dry to a lot of rain, or we go from hot to cold.
So they're getting sore in their muscles when there's a great fluctuation in the weather?
Soreness in the muscles is one thing that we may notice. Some horses will go off their feed. Some of them are not as eager to go out and do their jobs. So each horse is different, and they may exhibit a different behavior or problem.
Right, but even if they're feeling it in their gut, a nice relaxing massage is something that's going to contribute to the recovery.
Definitely. And then the acupressure too will help to boost the digestive system.
Absolutely, because it still works on the organs, even though
Exactly.
that's
Yes.
cool.
And then is there any way that technology has impacted your field, or can you see any ways that it would impact your field?
I personally am not very good with technology, and I think that's what makes me good at my job, because I'm a much more hands-on, tactile type person. But I think that technology could be helpful in, a lot of people are skeptics as far as to the benefits of things like acupressure and massage. So technology may help us to sort of confirm how those modalities do indeed help horses.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, and what you do has been around for a very long time.
Exactly. The acupressurists, massage therapists, herbalists, chiropractors were the doctors before doctors. They were the medicine man or the shaman. There used to be all different kinds of names for them, and they were who you would go to or take your animal to if you were sick or if they were sick. So it has been around for about 4,000 years, and our bodies haven't really changed. Animals' bodies haven't really changed. So what has worked over the last 4,000 years continues to work now.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So you do a lot to help the horse stay balanced. Do you have any tips or tricks for keeping yourself balanced?
I absolutely do, because I am a workaholic. So to balance that, I go myself for acupuncture, chiropractic, and massage every month like clockwork to keep my own body functioning properly. I also go to the gym 5 days a week to keep my own muscles exercised and healthy and strong enough to do the work that I do. And then I try my very best to eat right, although I do have a weakness for chocolate, as most of us do, yes.
What kind? What kind of chocolate?
Mint and dark chocolate are my favorite, yes.
That is delicious.
Oh gosh, my mouth is watering.
So, in your practice, in addition to these things, are there any habits that you have that help you keep feeling grounded or more powerful in your work? Or are there any aspects of your life that you feel like you could use a little bit more balance?
I think in the ways that I find support for myself, I have a lot of great friends in my life that support me and that I spend time with when I have sort of slower times. But really, I love my job and I love my clients and I love the horses. So most days it doesn't even feel like work. And even after a 15-hour day, when I get home, my body is exhausted, but my heart is full.
That's amazing.
And it's very rewarding.
I love to hear that. So that's all awesome. And if we take a step back and kind of look at a big picture view of the horse world, do you have any wishes for the horse world?
I think one of my wishes I'm seeing come true right now, and that's that people are educating themselves so much more about how to properly care for their horses and how to properly ride and train their horses. They're seeking out the knowledge of equestrian professionals as far as riding, training, health care, good farrier care. The healthier and happier we can keep our horses, the better they're going to be able to serve us.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot because that's the way that we should be showing our horses that we love them.
Absolutely.
We don't need to be the treat lady. We need to be the lady that can assess them and
Right.
figure out what it is that they need and then provide that for them.
Exactly.
I imagine you're pretty good at that.
I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole. Tell everybody that's watching where they can find you on the internet and how they can connect with you.
Yes, my website is equizen.biz, so that's EQUIZEN.biz, equizen.biz. Equizen also has a Facebook page. You can look me up on Facebook. And I service a radius of about 2 hours around the Tryon area.
Great.
So I work here in Tryon. I go to Greenville, South Carolina. I go to Charlotte. In the winters, I serve the equestrians in Wellington, Florida that go down there for the show season. So I am in Florida for about a week at a time, January, February, and March, but I don't neglect my clients here. So I'm able to balance being in both places.
That is.
You've traveled abroad for some work as well,
I
haven't
have,
you?
yes. In 2016, I worked in Ireland for 2 weeks, and this past summer, I worked in France for about a week.
That is wonderful. That must have been a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and being able to travel with my work is an opportunity that I never thought I would have, so it's very exciting.
Wonderful, yeah. Great, well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, I'm Cerice from Equestrian Power.
And I'm Catherine.
And we thank you again.